This is a tutorial on the UniMocX control specific behavior. We'll go ahead and start off placing a UniMocX control on this blank presentation. And so we can see what the control is doing, or what the simulation is doing. Let's go ahead and put a chart control on that page. And if we go ahead and start the presentation, you'll see that we have essentially our initial first presentation. If we go to the control, the UniMocX control itself, we can take a look at its properties, and you'll see that there's really two main sets of properties here. One is the network, and the other is the command list. The network identifies on which network this control actually communicates, so that the other controls that get their information or try to send information to this control know on which network they're talking. So let's go ahead and keep this one at 1200. You'll note that if we go to the chart control, that's also has a network of 1200. If we go ahead and draw another control on here, chart control, and we set that to a network of 1201, and then we go ahead and start our presentation, you'll see that the second chart is not showing any information because there is no 1201 UniMocX control. Now, if we go to the next page of the presentation and we draw a chart control, and we label this chart control also to be for 1200, so that's going to correspond to this chart control. We'll draw another chart control here, and we'll set this one to 1201 also, the way we did previously. And we'll start our presentation. You'll see that, again, we're showing information on this chart, which is connected to this control through that network. This chart is not showing anything because there is no UniMocX control 1201. You'll see on the second page, same situation. Okay, now if we go ahead and we put a UniMocX control on the second page, and we set its property to 1201. Now again, we're putting this on the second page. So if we started our presentation, you'll see that we still aren't getting anything on this particular chart control, even though it is tied to the second UniMocX control on the second page. That's because in PowerPoint, that second UniMocX control doesn't actually get activated until it's viewed. So when we click to the next page, you'll see both charts are now operating as one would expect. This control has been activated because we've viewed it. If we go back now to the original first page, you'll see that both charts are working. So once a UniMocX control in PowerPoint gets viewed, it gets activated, and it stays activated, and the information will be accessible throughout the presentation once it's activated. Okay, the other part of this control property page is to be able to set the initial condition of this particular simulation. So let's go in and implant a total artificial heart in this patient. And again, all we're doing here is we're choosing the simulation component that we want to deal with, and then what property of that simulation component that we want to do something with. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and implant a total artificial heart on this particular control, on this particular UniMocX control. So if we start the presentation, and as we did before, we know that the UniMocX control on page 2 isn't activated yet, but you'll note that we have a much higher rate of beat here, heart rate, because of the fact that this is an artificial heart now. If we go to the second page, you'll actually be able to see the difference between the two. You can see that this heart rate, according to the aortic pressure, is at a much higher rate than this rate, which is essentially a biological heart. So again, this particular UniMocX control is on 1201, network 1201, as is this chart. This chart is on 1200, which is on the first page, the UniMocX control on the first page. And again, by going back to the first page, you can see that we are able to access the data from both. And then one last piece of information. Let's go ahead and take this control, and we'll put it on this page. So now it's on the first page with the first UniMocX control. So both of them will start up at the same time. So let's go ahead and start the presentation. You notice this very rapid set of data at the very first of this presentation. That is a transient effect of the simulator first getting all of its information loaded and still supplying information to these charts. And so it's a transient effect that it's nicer if you don't display it. So what I usually do with my presentations, I put my UniMocX controls on a page which there's no display. And so in that case, we'll go ahead and delete these two and start our presentation. And so you have some text in here saying what the presentation's about. And then by the time you go to the next page where you're showing the data, you no longer see the transients.